Hello everyone, welcome back. In this video, we will discuss about the feature control in our behavior definition. The feature control can be applied on the fields, on the operations also on the standard operation as well and non-standard operation as well. It can be applied on the static way as well and the dynamic way as well. It can be applied on the particular instance and entire business object as well. So these are the things we can do using the feature control. But feature control, what will be the impact on the UI? Suppose some of the fields are displaying. I don't want to user should able to edit those particular fields. Then I can disable those fields using this feature control. Not only that, if I want to indicate that particular field is mandatory to user, so user get to know that particular field is mandatory, then I can make using this feature control, I can make that particular field as a mandatory as well. This is about the fields. Not only the fields, we can do this feature control on the operation as well. We can disable any operation. Suppose in our case we have the accept and reject travel. Suppose any particular instance, travel instance already accepted, then we can disable the accept button for that particular travel instance. And if it is rejected, then we can disable that particular already rejected instance. The reject button we can disable because it is already rejected. Why we have to enable the reject button? Now you can, if you want, you can accept again if you want to do that thing. So like that this feature control work. So we'll discuss first on the operation, the feature control on the operations. There are some of the things we have to make sure. This feature control operations on the internal operation, we can't do any feature control. That is not exposed to neither UI or neither you can access those internal operations through EML statement. So obviously why we need the feature control internally if we are using. So that is the reason we can't use feature control on the internal operations. If static RAP BO operations means some of the operation which is applicable on the entire BO. For example, the create button and update button. Something is applicable for entire BO, then we can use only the global feature control. If it is not related to particular instance, some button is not related to the particular instance which we have created, then we can only use global feature control. There we can't use the instance feature control. Obviously that is particular operation is applicable for entirely on entire business object. So how you can use the instance feature control? You have to use the global feature control only. One more thing, in local mode. So we discussed also in my previous video read operation and modify operations. In the read and modify operation, when we use the in local mode, this all the feature control whatever we have defined, that will be disabled. Not only the feature control, authorization checks also will be disabled. So you have to make sure that whenever you are calling internally any business object, or you don't want to execute any feature, you don't want to see any feature control on that particular business object, then you can use in local mode. And we are using in local mode for read operations internally. But when you access outside that particular BO, that particular business object, then you can't use the in local mode. If you try to use also, then you will get error. But suppose I want to get to know some operation is enabled or disabled for this particular business object, then I can use the get permission EML statement to know that that particular operation is already enabled or disabled at this particular time for this particular instance or for globally. That information I can get using this particular get permission statement. Now we will talk about the instance feature control. Instance feature control which is applicable on that particular instance, and whenever instance feature control is disabled, for example, as I told you, accept and reject travel buttons are there, that is applicable to the particular instance. Whenever you select that one, I want to disable any one of the operation, either accept or reject based on the currently it is accepted and rejected, then I can use the instance feature control. Then another field, another button will either one of the button I have to make disabled, it will be grayed out on the UI. But if you are accessing any one of the a disabled button using the EML statement from outside the BO in any program or from another BO, that time you will get the error in the failed structure. You will not able to access those particular operations, and the failed structure will automatically fill and you will get the error. You can apply this instance feature control on the update and delete operations, on the actions, on as what all are the operations we are doing with the association, along with the association and the draft action edit also we can do this feature control, instance feature control. Now we talk about the global feature control. Global feature controls are applicable on the entire BO. Entire BO means, suppose I want to disable, create or delete button entirely at the business object level, not at particular instance level, then I can use that particular global feature control. There might be the requirement, for example, the user should not able to create one particular travel between this time to this time. So I can check the time and I can disable that particular operation button on the UI. Then user will be not able to create any of the, or user will not able to update, delete or create any of the operations in that particular time of period. For that I have to implement that dynamically. As I told you, we can implement instance and global feature control both statically as well, dynamically as well. Statically means if you define in the behavior definition, then it will become statically. Means if you don't define, then it will be not available. If you define something, then it will be available. Dynamically means based on some condition I want to enable and disable, then that also I can do for this all the operations. Now we will discuss about the field characteristic, or we can say field feature control at the field level. In this case, as I told you, we can make any field read only, or we can make any field at the field mandatory as well. But we have to make sure whenever we are making the field as a read only and you try to call using the EML statement outside that BO, the read only field you want to try to update those fields, then you will get the error. Use the BO runtime environment will give some error that you can't update this particular field. And one more important thing, if it is field is mandatory, that we have to say at the base behavior definition level itself. We should not say at the projection layer. If you say at the projection behavior definition layer, if you make some field as a mandatory, that will be not evaluated by the runtime. So you have to make sure whatever the field you want to make mandatory, at the base level only you have to make those particular fields mandatory. And third thing, this is very important thing, we discussed read only and mandatory in initial part also, but suppress we didn't discuss. Suppose one field, neither I want to display on the front end UI that particular field, nor I want to display that particular field during the implementation as well, or in the OData service and REP BI, anywhere I don't want to display that particular field, but still that particular field is available in my entity, but I don't want to display at all during the programming as well. In the derived type also, when we see the derived type, we will see the field list along with the other fields. That there also I don't want to display that particular field. Then we will use this particular suppress feature control to suppress that particular field. That is also useful in some of the scenarios. Now we will discuss the dynamic way. For these three are the static way. We can see read only, mandatory and suppress. Once we define that particular thing in the behavior definition, it will be applicable entire time of that whenever we execute that BO. But some of the field I want to disable or enable. For example, I want to make some of the field mandatory during the create, and I want to make some of the field read only during the update. For example, external numbering scenario, whenever we are giving the number, that time we have to make sure we have to give that creation time it should be mandatory, and when we are updating that particular travel instance, then it should be read only, because this is the key field, or we can say the early numbering, external early numbering. So update time, obviously you should not update the key field, so that is the reason we have to use that time mandatory create along with the read only update that particular field. If you want to give the multiple things, you can give in the comma separated list. Or suppose you want to disable based on some condition that particular field, then also you can use the dynamic feature control. This is the variant feature instance, and this will be implemented in the behavior pool. The method will be the this one, for instance feature. This method we have to implement. Dynamically we can write the code to enable and disable this particular field. And the same way, if some of the field mandatory on create, and if you didn't pass that particular field when you are calling from the either from EML or from the front end, that time BU runtime will give automatically error that this is mandatory. And for these things, mandatory create and read only update, we no need to do any code implementation, because it is done by the not done by framework, but it is implemented by the framework. You will get automatically error. And typical case, we can combine, as I told you, this mandatory create and read only update during the early numbering scenario. Now what I will do, we will jump into the system, we will enhance our application which we have created for the processor, not for the approver, processor, and we will make some of the fields read only, some of the field mandatory during the creation. For example, travel, we want to make some of the administrative field by who changed this particular entity, when it got changed, last change by, last change date, and last change by. These all things I want to make as a read only. Travel ID we already made as a read only in my previous video. We will make some of the other fields as a read only, and some of the field we will make during the creation mandatory, because these are the mandatory field but should be filled by the user. Without that there is no use. For example, agency ID, customer ID, begin date, end date, these all things should be filled by the processor and to create particular travel. And we will define some of the dynamic feature control, as I told you, for accept and travel. We will disable one of them during the interaction phase. And one more thing, create by association also I want to enable and disable based on the, if some travel already rejected, then I don't want to give the create by association option. You can't create that particular BO operations for that particular BO instance. In same way, we will do the feature control for the booking and booking supplement also. So what we will do, without wasting the time, let's jump into the system. Let's do the feature control for the fields and operations in our particular application. Let's implement the feature control for our processor view applications. So before going for the implementation, let's quickly see the preview how it look like. Let's select the processor service binding and quickly see the preview how it look like currently. First we will enable some of the fields. In our case, if I see everything is working fine, let me come back, select. So we have a lot of fields, but we are not displaying all the fields in the UI as of now by default. But if you select all the fields, we don't have these fields which we want to update this particular fields, last change by, last change date, create and create by. These fields are not available on the UI, but still these fields are useful in the backend. We want to update these fields automatically in the backend as per our requirement. To do that, we want that this field should be available in our service, and this should be read only, or not only the read only, this field should be, because why we want to make this fields read only, because even these fields accessed by the another program, that time this fields also in front end, anyway we are not displaying this field at all using the annotations. But if somebody access this fields through the another BO, or they want to create this particular BO instance or update the BO instance to the program, that time also these fields should be read only. To make that, let me see my best definition first. Why I travel take him, these all fields are available, create by, created, last change by. But if you see the values in this particular fields in our table, let me open our table. Why travel take him, not this booking take him, sorry. Let me open this particular table and see the data. Recent data, if you see, which we created recently, we didn't fill this field at all. The travel created by changed by these fields, administration fields are blank. So for the other which created by another table which we copied, that is filled automatically, but in this case these fields created by and last changed by and created 8 fields are not filled at all in our scenario. We also have to fill this all the fields. To do that, what we will do, we will give some of the annotations, we can say semantic annotations. Using that annotations, if you are defined for any particular entity, that automatically filled during the runtime. So these are the annotations are there. Semantics annotations for the created by user, we have to use semantic user created by equal to true. Let me use for created by. For created 8 also we have this one, system date time we want to give, and last change by also we have the local instance last change by, that also we can give. And for the last change 8 we already have given because we wanted to use as a e-take, that is the reason we have given. So shift F1, control F3, like that we have enable or we can say we want to update this all the fields by default by the system date and time using these annotations. But if we see the projection layer, let me open the projections of this particular travel, YC travel Techem. Yeah, processor app we are working. We will not touch approval app as of now. Approver app we created for the accept and reject button, but not for this purpose. So in this case, you can see I have disabled these fields. Let me enable again, control shift greater than at the projection layer, but we are not gonna modify our metadata file to display these fields, but we at least we will enable this field, so this field will be filled automatically at the runtime. Control F3. This was my first work. Now let's open our behavior definition of base behavior definition where we want to implement our feature control. So travel ID field already we have read only. We want to make this administrative field also read only. Last change by, last change 8, created by and created 8. This all field also should be read only. Let me pass the comma separated list, and I want to make some of the fields mandatory for that field, and I want to make them mandatory using the feature control mandatory, and I want to pass the field list. I have already the list. These all the fields I want to pass as a mandatory, and I want this actions should be controlled by feature control, that is also dynamic feature control. So let me pass the feature control here. So you have to pass bracket F control space. This should be instance feature control because this action is applicable for each instance. And let me do the same thing for the reject as well. Control C, control V. Not only for the reject, I want to do for the create by association also. What I mean by create by association, I want to enable create by association when the travel status is not rejected. If it is rejected, I don't want to give user to create the booking using the associations. So that is the reason we will pass here also feature control in this. In this way I can control dynamically. For that we have to what we have to do, we have to write some code to enable this feature control, accept travel, reject travel, or enable or disable these buttons, or we can say enable or disable this particular operations. So to do that, we are getting already warning, we have to fix this. If you don't fix this warning, at runtime you will get error. You define some of the feature control or dynamic feature control, but you didn't implement it, so you will get the error. So you have to implement this one also. Control 1 you can do add implementation method for this particular feature control. It will automatically edit get instance feature. If you see here for the why I travel Techem, what is the issue here? Oh, it's saying there is no feature control. I have to activate first that behavior definition. Control F3, and let me go to now my class, shift F1, except F1. Okay, I have activated this one. Some error I got, control F3, it got activated. Let me try to activate. What is the error I am getting here? The property feature instance is not defined for the white I travel taken. I have already defined. Let me do control F3. Now it got activated successfully. So now let's see the preview of our applications. I don't think so there will be any impact. Let me refresh my application, because these fields we are not displaying on UI administrative field, but some of the field we make mandatory. That impact we can see here. If you create new instance, click on create button. If you go to the, I can see the field same as we were seeing, but newly added field I can't see because we didn't edit in the we didn't edit those fields in the UI using the annotations. But what I want to do, I want to create the new instance. You can see some of the fields are the mandatory. Let me don't pass one of the mandatory field and let me see what it is happening 100 USD agency ID. Let me don't pass agency ID. Let me pass the end date. Description I will pass something. Let me pass some customer. Booking fee let me pass. Overall status let me pass open and try to create this instance. You can see the travel is created successfully. Even we didn't pass the mandatory field over here. Agency ID even we didn't pass, still it is created successfully. But if you see in edit mode, it is mandatory. But when we try to create, it is created successfully. So you have to make sure we have to implement the validation for that. Even you make the field in your behavior definition as a mandatory field, it will just give the UI thing to make this mandatory. Stare in red color it will give it is mandatory, but it will not give any validation. User have entered this field, or if it is not entered, then it will not give error. But there is one another things create on what we can say. There is another feature control called, instead of mandatory, if you use like this, control space, mandatory on create, that is implemented automatically. That time you will get the error, but only for mandatory you will not get the error. You have to implement the validations for this particular one. That we will do in my upcoming video, not in this video. We will learn what is validations and what is the usefulness of the validation, then we will implement those validations. As of now, let me make mandatory, but UI level you can see it got impacted that it is mandatory, but even we are not entering those fields, we are not getting any error. To get the error, you have to implement the validations. Till now we have defined the static and dynamic feature control for our travel entity. Now let's define the static and dynamic feature control for our booking and booking supplement as well. To do that, let me go to my booking entity. I have to make some of the fields read only for booking as well. So for the root, suppose I want to make, these are the carrier ID, connection ID and the booking status. I want to make them mandatory, but let me make these fields for my booking mandatory. So let me come here, fields, and let me make them mandatory. Control space you can do, you will get the value help, and you can make some of the field. Travel ID and booking ID is already read only, and this carrier ID, connection ID, flight date and booking status you have to mandatorily enter. And out of this all the fields, I want to make booking date and the customer ID should be mandatory on create, but read only on update. You can creation type, you can update the booking date and customer ID. Once you created your booking, you should not able to update the booking date and customer ID. So that I want to, because booking is already created for that particular customer, you should not change the booking date. So that feature I want to give. So that also we can do using this static feature control. We can apply that field mandatory on create, comma, second feature we can give read only update. Control space, you can give read only update, and we can give these two fields, booking date and customer ID, and you can close using the semicolon. So this is the static feature control we have given for the booking. Now I want to give one dynamic feature control, because we are creating the booking association from the booking entity. When we are creating the booking association, I want to make sure the booking is not cancelled. Then only I want to create the booking supplement. Otherwise, what is the use of creating the booking supplement? So that feature also I want to give. So whenever I am creating with association booking supplement, that time I want to implement the instance feature control for this booking supplement, where I will check the booking status is not cancelled for this particular booking. Then only I will enable that creation of the booking supplement. Otherwise I will not enable that options. That I will do through programmatically. Shift F1, Control F3. For that, what I have to do, I have to implement for dynamic thing, Control 1. If you do, I want to implement this particular method, feature instance feature method, in my for booking entity and booking behavior pool as well. So I want to implement this one. So one method will be declared automatically, get instance feature for our booking entity as well in the booking behavior pool. You can see I want to where I'm getting the keys, and that implementation part we will discuss. But I have defined, let me activate Alt bake, Control F3, first my behavior definition, Alt /, then I will let me activate my behavior pool as well. Let me come back. Like that, we have defined the static and the dynamic feature control for my booking as well. Same way I will define for the booking supplement also. I want to make read only last change date. That is very important for the booking supplement. Not only for the booking supplement, I have to do that particular thing for the booking as well, because last change date field is a particular field is a administrative field, not mandatory. I want to make read only, because it is an administrative field and somebody call this particular BO through the program, they should not update this particular last change date field, because it will be updated by automatically by the system. So we have to make sure this is the read only. Anyway, in front end I am not showing this particular field, it will be not editable. But if some other programmer calling, or in some other BO calling this particular BO instance and try to update this field, they should not able to update. So that is the reason last change 8 field I have made as a read only. And second thing, I want to make some of the fields mandatory for this as well, a price and supplement ID whenever you create the supplement. So for that I want to make field, not factory, field. I want to make some of the field mandatory. Control space you can do. Mandatory, and I can give the field names. Basically price and supplement ID you have to mandatorily pass whenever you create. Here I don't have any dynamic feature control, Control F3. Like that, I have successfully implemented I have defined static feature control, and I have defined the dynamic feature control as well, but I didn't do the implementation for the dynamic feature control. So let me see what will be the impact on the UI. So for that, let me open my processor app, not the behavior, processor app, and let me try to preview again my application instead of refreshing. Click on go button. As I told you, all the mandatory fields should be shown with the static symbol. If you create, and let me give some date here, some total price here, 78 or something USD I can give, and value help is coming. Agency ID I can give, and date I can give, description I can give, customer ID I will miss here. Let me give the booking fee, overall status, let me give open. Let me create this one. Even customer ID is mandatory. We will be able to create successfully because we didn't implemented the validations. Now I will create the booking. When you click on create booking, again we have some of the fields here mandatory as well. Booking date, let me give booking date, airline ID which I made the mandatory, and SI we have given something like that. Let me open my behavior definition, not this one. Why I travel take him. So we have given like this, some of the fields mandatory on create but read only update, booking date and customer ID. So let me go to booking date and customer ID. Let me close, cancel it. Flight number you can give anything. Booking status I can give new, and booking date, customer ID let me give something, some value, and flight date. Let me click on create. Let me go on edit mode for this particular. Even I didn't pass some of the mandatory field. It is created, booking is created successfully. But if I go edit mode, you can see now customer ID got disabled and the booking date also got disabled, because when we are updating, that field should not be editable. So you can't update. During the update, this particular booking date and customer ID that got impacted. So as I told you, mandatory on create, read only on update. So in this case the validation will happen. So that I want to show you quickly. So for example, I want to create one new booking here. So let me create one new booking and don't pass customer ID this time. Other thing I want to pass, or you don't pass also fine. Price should be something USD. Oh sorry, you have to give some number and USD. Flight date I don't want to pass as of now. Booking booked. Flight date you can pass anything. Let me try to create now, but it will give us the customer ID field is mandatory. Enter a value for customer ID, and if you enter the customer ID field, let me pass some customer, and if you didn't add any date, let me remove this one, delete, and try to create now. You can see enter the valid date following format. So like that we will get the error because we make that mandatory on create this particular field. So that is the impact of mandatory on create. So even this mandatory we have to implement in the validation, but when you make the mandatory on create, that time we no need to make the validations. The system will by default creation time will check this field is filled or not. If it is not filled, it will be, the error will be given. In this video we learned about the feature control, static and dynamic feature control, and we define the static and dynamic feature control in our behavior definition. We will implement this dynamic feature control in my next video for both processor and approver application. Before going to that video, please like this video, share these videos with others as well. With that, thank you and happy learning.